This is my story of one example of the bridge of incidents happening to bring me something I wanted that seemed sort of impossible. And I've been thinking about this one a lot over the last couple months. Every time I start to sort of doubt, I just remember how this went down and how it went down. So in about January of 2017, my business partner and I decided that we wanted to start investing in other people's products, like become wholesale, flipping other people's products in addition to manufacturing and selling our own. And so I went around to a whole bunch of different companies online and applied for wholesale accounts with them. And there was one company that I really wanted more than any of the rest of them. I loved their products. There's a huge demand for them. They're kind of higher end. It's really good stuff. And I was really excited about them. I wanted them. But they required extra stuff to get a wholesale account. You had to fax in stuff and tell them a bunch of info. And I just kind of set it aside. That would also have been a very large investment, and I was kind of interested in seeing how other products sold, and so I kind of set them aside for a while, but I really wanted them. And so one of the other companies that I didn't really like that much required me to meet with a rep in person. This is the only company that required me to meet with a rep, and which I hate. And I just was like, ugh. So I made an appointment with this guy. He came out. We'll call him Bob. And Bob was working for one of the companies that I don't really like. He showed me all their stuff. Wasn't that great. I ordered a small amount of a bunch of different things from him, but the company didn't provide product photography. There was unpredictable delivery dates. It was just kind of a mess. They were kind of a mess. And so I ordered some stuff. And while Bob was there, we had this brief conversation during which I was like, can we please get this over with? And he was like, so, who else are you going to be carrying? Let me know, what other companies are you interested in? I'm also a rep for this other company, blah, blah, blah. And so we talked a little bit about what I was doing. And I said, the only company that I haven't applied for is, let's call it Acme, the one who required the faxing and had the huge catalog and everything. And he said, oh, it's too bad that we're not in neighboring state. My wife is the rep for Acme there. That was the end of that conversation. Never saw or spoke to Bob again. Not on the phone, not in person. He tried to get a hold of me. He left me messages saying, hey, I'm going to be in your area next week. Let's make an appointment so I can show you the new stuff. And I just never returned his calls because I didn't want to buy anything else from him. So that was January of 2017. So in June of 2017, I finally said, okay, other people's products are selling well. I'm ready to take the plunge with Acme. So I filled out the information, faxed it over, and I heard nothing. I waited a week. I called and left a message. Nobody called me back. So I started getting paranoid, and I was like, oh my God, did they look at my website and just decide that I'm too shitty for them? And I was like, don't think that. But I couldn't help it. I was paranoid. And I got more and more paranoid as I kept calling, and they kept not calling me back. So finally, after 5 or 6 weeks, the rep for my area finally called me, and I could tell instantly that this was not going to be a good conversation. He said, he sounded really sheepish, and he was like, we're just not sure if our products are a good fit for your website. We're kind of a higher end company, and you sort of look like a discounter, which I'm not. And so we're not going to be able to do business, essentially. And I was just shocked because while I had been worried about that, I didn't think it was going to actually happen. I mean, I already had all these other companies' products in my store. He could easily go look and see that I was already carrying everybody else. So that was that. It wasn't like there was much of a recourse there. You know, he basically said no, and I just had to accept it. But clearly, like, it really bothered me, especially at first. I kind of felt like, ugh, like I was embarrassed and all that stuff. And, I would like go through these periods of being distressed about it, and I'd be like, I don't need him, because I don't. We didn't need any of these people. We just wanted to branch out. And so as the rest of the year wore on, this just continued to bother me. Like, it was such a crap deal, Acme wasn't going to make any money off of me. I wasn't going to make any money off of Acme. My customers weren't going to be able to come to my store as a one-stop shop. The whole thing just sucked. It annoyed the crap out of me, and it would continue to come back to me because it was like this weird injustice. And I was just like, no, like, those belong in my store. My brain would like try to figure out ways. Like, I remembered that conversation with Bob about how his wife was the neighboring state rep. And I was like, could I set up a P.O. box and go through her, like, my brain tried to find a way, and it just could not come up with a way that wasn't like underhanded or devious or sure to be found out or, but like my brain would just go there. Like, if I was driving or thinking about it or thinking about the future of my business, it would always annoy me. But, I would just eventually feel so distressed about it that I would say, hey, we don't need that company. Like, don't forget that we don't need that company. Just, it's not worth feeling this way. So, got rejected, met Bob in January of 2017, got rejected from Acme in June of 2017. Still with me? So, in January of 2018, January is our busiest month of the year, I was not thinking about this because I was running around like a chicken with its head cut off at work. Out of nowhere, I get an email from Bob. And Bob says, hey, guess what? I am now your regional rep for Acme. And I remembered our conversation about how much you wanted to carry Acme. So I looked, and I see that you don't have an account. Would you like me to set you up with one? Fax me over your tax ID number and I will set you up today. And that was that. I had the thing that I wanted out of nowhere. And at the time I was just like, oh, what luck. This is awesome. Cool. And looking back on it now, I realize that Bob was literally the only person in the world who could have given me what I wanted. He was the only rep that could have come into that position who would have had any idea who I was. Any other random person would never have met me, would never have had that conversation. For Bob to have gotten that job in the first place, he almost definitely got that job because his wife was the rep for the neighboring state. If she hadn't been the rep for that state, it's unlikely that he would have, he definitely got a foot in the door because of her. He worked for the crappy company, and so he had to be unhappy with his job and looking to make a move. The snooty guy who rejected me almost certainly got fired for something I'm sure related to, I mean, when you're rejecting companies from buying product, that's not a good practice. So basically, somebody had to be dissatisfied with their job. Somebody else had to get fired. The person that was dissatisfied with their job had to have a path into this position and was literally the only person in the world who could have given me that account. I wouldn't have reapplied anytime, in any time frame that, any foreseeable time frame. So when I think about how that went down now, it's really mind-blowing. And look at also what happened after the fact, how wonderfully this all worked out. Bob shows up at his new job and immediately sets up an account that I have spent so much money at that company since January 2018. Last year in January in 2019, they emailed me and said, we're shipping all your orders for free from now on because you're such a good customer, which is a lot of money, 5 figures in free shipping. So Bob slides into his new job, impresses his bosses with landing this new account basically on day one that ends up being such a good account that they're doling out free shipping 1 year later. He made a ton of money off of this because I think the sales reps make like 5%. The company's making a ton of money. I'm making a ton of money off these. I was right. My customers want, one of their product lines is like one of my top sellers. The whole thing is like, how I could not have possibly choreographed that. If you can explain that in some way other than divine order, leave me a comment and tell me how.